name is John Geiger. Mark Hughes, the director of scouting for the New York Knicks, is called Geiger the Cleaner for his ability to creatively manifest solutions to help athletes overcome self-imposed physical and mental obstacles to performance success, says Mark. Utilizing Geiger as a resource is the difference between making it or not making it. How important is that for an athlete, right? Right? It's crucial. How important is that in somebody's lives who really wants to change and be extraordinary at what they do? It's really important. He's a specialist in both physical and mental athletic conditioning who changes lives through positive motivation coupled with a unique capacity to empower and transform athletes. We are so lucky to have him tonight. In addition to his work with youth and national organizations and schools, Geiger consults for professional and national teams, individual athletes, and organizations of all types. His passion, knowledge, and enthusiasm make him a valuable motivational speaker. Athletes, adolescents, performers, and those who wish to break through whatever barriers they have faced in the past will achieve maximum performance with John Geiger as their no limits coach and ally. So let's give him a big hand.
So nice. Most of that's true. Some of that. I want to meet that guy. Do you mind if I close this to lay this on this? Or tell me how to make a table.
Let me just pull it down, and then you can just do your thing.
Look at that. Just
Holy
like
crap.
I grew up with. Okay.
Hang on. Can I pull that? Yeah, thank you.
I'm a Luddite. Legal pad. Pen. Immigrant son. So, hi, my name's John. As many of us find out what we actually bring to the table in life, I found out what I do from other people telling me what they were getting a response from that I wasn't even intending. My dad was an engineer, and my mom was an artist and a writer, and later on in life, a social worker. So from my dad, without realizing it, I was getting deconstructive thought to problem solving and managing people, right? Because he would manage operate. My mom, I'd get words, metaphors, abstract imagery, and one-on-one stuff. So I learned not to be married to deconstructive thought, but to be able to explore outside of the box, because that's a lot of times where the actual answers are, many boxes. Right? So I was the 11-year-old kid who did not have a lot of self-esteem, was hitting his growth spurt pretty late, so I couldn't play or compete with kids my age, because they don't do it by weight class, they do it by age. And I wandered into a Buddhist temple on 106th Street in Harlem, where I grew up, at 11 years old, for reasons I can't explain. And I found a guy right off the boat. He was a very karate kid. This guy, Japanese sensei, seventh dan. And I just kind of lived there 5 days a week because it was better than being at home, And but you got to remember, this is Dog Day Afternoon, New York, right? There's no culture of fitness. It's like a Tiger Milk bar was like cutting edge, And if you were running, it was because somebody was chasing you, and there wasn't a martial arts studio on every strip mall in America. This was free, And he had a very Eastern as the day is long approach to, like, it took a year of meditation and learning just how to fall and slow, like before we ever got into anything you'd see in any kind of Bruce Lee movie. It was really, really, really old school. And it was beautiful because it was teaching from the inside out. And, you come back to things that you started with years and years go by. It's like a musician. I have friends who are jazz musicians, and you ask them as years go by what the difference is for them as a player now than when they were younger. And they say, I play less notes, because they know straight line. They know exactly what to edit, what to weed out. what equipment you don't need, all the big, fancy, heavy, whatever, you know? It's like MacGyver. You have a chair and a piece of string, and you know what you're doing, and boom. But because of that time, there was no way to put together knowledge that was standardized. There were no certifications, there were no trainer tests. Thank God, you know. Uh, that's when my dad's brain kicked in. I went out and I found every book. I found Jim Fix on running, and and I found Sensei Higashi on Jiu-Jitsu and Tom Seaver on the art of pitching, whatever it was. And I started putting together my own ideas of how the body seemed to work best in performance. And what occurred to me was, well, if I can direct my will and my mind and my heart and my imagery in a more focused manner than the next guy, and I could put together my technique in a more efficient manner than the next guy, I could compete with the guy who's bigger, stronger, faster, you know. And then eventually maybe my body would help out and come along. That's what I did. But some of these things took interesting turns, as you go through life and you find you didn't expect to use this stuff that you pick up really to put it into tests in areas that are not the arena that you expected. After college, I had a really bad car accident. They told me I'd never walk again. So I broke my back. Doctors, Bear County Hospital, San Antonio. Never forget. I was in intensive care. I was 20-something years old. The guy looked at my chart. I'm there with people who've got knife wounds and all sorts of stuff. Not a good day. And he sees on my chart that I'm from New York. And I don't know what he's thinking. See, the cover of Sports Illustrated that week was Darryl Strawberry, guy in the Mets, and he says, maybe you want to read this. And he throws it on my chest. I can't move, at this point. Bedside manner. Hello. So, and he told me, probably not going to walk again, right? And this is as big a voice of authority as you can get. And you can rebel all you want against your parents, but when you got doctors telling you what you can and can't do, and you're 20-something years old, it's pretty intense. And then I didn't have sufficient insurance, and they sent me home. So I spent the next 6 months teaching myself how to crawl across the room, and then how to use a chair, and then I put together my own deal. And 5 years later, I ran my first marathon as a way of saying, pardon my French, but F you to the doctors. Don't tell me what I can and can't do, But the point is, there's you can get inspiration from anywhere if you know what you're trying to manipulate in your life towards a greater purpose. There's a scene in Lawrence of Arabia where a guy falls off his camel going through this unpassable desert. Lawrence gets to the end. They find out the guy fell off and goes back in, and another guy says, you're not going to survive. You can't go back there. He's supposed to fall off his camel. He's dead. It's written. And he rides back in the desert. He puts the guy back on. He barely makes it back. And he turns to him. The first thing he says is, nothing is written. So I call my company's Geiger's No Limits because I feel like, hey, there's this amazing thing that we do as people. And it's one of the things that that ties us together, in our pursuits. When we choose to actually feel a communal spirit of going forward in our pursuits and not a competitive spirit. And that's this. There's this amazing thing that I have on page something here that that we basically allow other people who have less information about our historical achievements, failures, and triumphs. We allow them to tell us what we can and can't do. Now, the thing that's amazing to me is other people have less historical information, right? Your battles personally, professionally, your successes and deeds, yet we listen to their opinions of our limitations and our potential. Now, this makes for a pretty bad horse handicapper, right? Emotions aside, they've got less information, and therefore, They've got less ability to assess and predict our potential than we do. And so the first thing that we got to do is remember, don't give it away. Don't give your power away. Live in vision and not in circumstance. I'm going to say that again because it's a big deal. Live in vision, not in circumstance. I don't know how many cells I have left from the guy I was when I was 17. I don't think it's a whole lot. Probably have a whole different set of them in a couple decades. So why should I be tied to that? I am who I am today. I take what I want in my suitcase towards tomorrow. You live in vision, not in circumstances. I don't know if it's true or not, but I once heard this great, I just love it. I'm going to say it's true. But the word decide, if you go back to the Latin derivation, really means to eliminate all other options. And the reason I love that, it's like when people they move to LA, right? And it's like, well, so you live in LA now. Well, I'm going to see how it goes. I'm just seeing how it goes. They say for 9 years, The 10th year, you actually go, shit, I think I live here. And that's when stuff starts happening because you own it, To eliminate all other options, really powerful thing. So what do we come back to that seems to be the common denominator between the young athlete or artist that I often find myself with, or the professional athlete that I'm blessed to find myself with? So we're human beings. And there's some things that never change when we're real. And that's fears and hopes, and fears of not meeting our hopes, and what happens when other people are watching us. All that stuff, it's there until we find ways to make it work for us, And it's a pretty big deal. So what do? I integrate mental and physical conditioning for athletes and performers from young adults all the way through professionals. But each person's an individual. See, the body does things when you are feeling things that inhabit, impact, or allow performance. And what's performance, actually? It's precision meeting freedom. It's not control. See, the ability of a ballet dancer in flight, or Joe Montana with 5 seconds left, or the musician on the stage, is to be as free as they are in their living room and bring that to the moment at stake. It's precision and freedom marrying, like this. So the body knows, like, it's got a barometer for BS like you wouldn't believe. So you can't just, like, I love it. You've got, like, I work with, God bless everyone, but, coaches, sometimes the worst. Coaches are worst. Because, like, so many times in what we come up against or we experience is people who do what they do the way they were taught to do it. They never question it. I love the expression, marry the question mark. Marry the question mark. What's going to be wrong? If you challenge an opinion, it's going to either reaffirm that it was right or you're going to discover a new way. No problem with that. But there's a high testosterone count in, like, these areas. So they got placards on the wall, left and right. Passion, dedication, commitment, intensity. That's great. Good words. How do you inhabit that? Who doesn't want to inhabit that? Who doesn't want to be the guy at 3, 2, 1, boom, How do you inhabit it? Well, you've got to first clear away all the stuff that has to do with the anxiety of those moments. And there's so much that goes into it. I'll give you an example. If it's a parable I call the rhino and the hippo, okay? And as many parables, it's kind of corny and simple, but if you actually think about it, you get some insight. into how to dial up your ability to focus on things that are going to serve you in those moments rather than distract you. If I tell you, whatever you do right now, don't think of a hippo. Don't. Right? Right? Don't. Please. Don't. Hippo. No. Right? It's there. Bang. Don't. Don't miss the last shot. Don't miss the bridge of that song. Don't. Whatever you did. Scouts in the audience. Forget about it. Lights out. Game over. You know? Now, if I tell you to close your eyes and imagine you're watching, you know, in my day, what Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and you imagine the horn of the African rhino that Jim has just chased down for Marlin. Right? You see the top of the horn. I want you to imagine this is your very own rhino, right? How old is that rhino? Like, is it an ivory white horn? Does it have little craggly marks? Is it little brown? Like, really get specific. And follow it down. How wide is it? Is it wide? Where does it narrow and where does it start extending wide? When it gets to the snout, are there little folds of skin around the bottom, around the base? Hold it in place, or does it go just boom? When you follow that snout, are there whiskers? How old is that skin? When you follow to the eyes, are they almond shaped? Are they circular? Is there yellow on each side? Does it have eyebrows? Which direction are the ears pointed as you follow that up? Did you think of a hippo? Right. You focus on the one specific thing that's going to help you in that moment with what your job is. And then when you can't focus on that, you focus on the next thing, and you've got a revolving checklist. I'll give you an example. You're a cross-country runner. Guy who always beats you is in the lane over. You're dying. Your mom's in the audience. You know, all that stuff. First thought, am I breathing as slowly and deeply as I can? Is my arm swinging on track, or is it flying out to the side? Let me get that in. Okay, so my arms are going here. Am I driving from behind, or am I pulling from my quads? Okay, now are my hips free? Am I throwing my forward leg out? Great. Where are my eyes? Are they up? Okay. Now where are my arms? You revolve these thoughts. You're constantly thinking about something that is actually making your technique efficient. Efficient means less work, more performance. You're working your job. You're being the airplane pilot who has an engine go out, and he goes, okay, gonna switch this engine, bang, switch here, and you're not being the engine, the jet pilot who's saying, oh my God, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die, which is saying that guy always beats me. There's a reason why racehorses have blinders, you know? So we got to keep the focus. It's a really interesting thing how people constantly use the term vicious cycle all the time. All the time. They love to. We love to. Negative thing. Right? But how many times do you hear people talk about a virtuous cycle? It's right there for the habit, you know? You know? Like we just don't. But bang, do something right, do something right, do something right. It's the mindset of somebody like Tom Brady, who is, think about it, he's a 6th-round draft pick in the NFL. Doesn't mean the Patriots passed on him 6 times. It means every other team also, their professionals passed on him. So what it means is his vision of himself had to be secure enough to not be seeing himself out of the eyes of these other professionals, right? That's their problem. So there's so many elements to take in the mind into the region of the body in performance. And that's kind of what I do, and what I love to do with young adults is you can actually change how they end up paying that forward into other areas. They take a test with a different attitude. They're a different citizen at home. They're different. Because everything, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And once you understand how to get the negative self-talk out and understand that, you know, the true warrior always remembers that the most important battles to win are always the ones within himself, you know. And 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 if you run a 2-minute mile, who exactly is your competition? And likewise, if you run a 17-minute mile, who's your competition? So it's all right here, you know. And you have a chance every day to approach whatever your activity is, like an artist who sees a canvas and says, what am I going to paint today? You know, the interesting thing about music schools is I actually went on a music scholarship for college. And one of the interesting things, I was also boxing Golden Gloves at the time until they found out. Not good. But one of the interesting things is you go up and down the halls of a music school and you learn a really great lesson. You see people who sound awful and people who sound brilliant. Yeah? So who become the awesome, amazing musicians who come out of the music? The ones who sounded awful. Because they understand that growth comes from subjugating your ego. You're in the practice room to work on the shit you can't do, not to glad hand yourself about the stuff that you already got. So the minute we actually are to take that self-judgment out of the realm, it opens the whole ballgame to every day a blank canvas on what we're working on with joy, with joy. So I'll leave you with one story that I love that I'm just sort of, you know, there's so much to talk about and connect, and I just wanted to sort of give some thoughts to marinate, just just the beginnings of marrying that question mark and seeing the way we do things and the way that we actually see them being done around us, and maybe there's another way, you know, there's a different way of integrated thought. I love the story of Mia Hamm, who's a wonderful women's soccer player, hero to a lot of girls out there, and rightfully so. And she was an amazing soccer player in North Carolina, and her coach was asked when he knew that she would be a superstar. And he told the story. He said, well, it was pouring down rain, and we canceled practice because it was just crazy. It was pouring down. So I'm driving home from the complex, and in the pouring rain, I see this one kid out on the soccer field kicking 100 balls in the net. And it was Mia. Now, at this point in time, she's already All-American. She was already going to the U.S. Olympic team. She was already captain of her team. She was a scoring champion. She's out there kicking 100 balls in the net. And then he said one of the greatest sentences ever. He said, you are what you do when no one's watching. You are what you do when no one's watching. So know what you love and always stay connected to that is basically my message, with whether it's a kid or a pro. That because that's what you're going to need to deal with what would otherwise turn into humiliation with actually not being able to get something right, or setbacks and how to turn it around. You know, it's always got to come from first knowing this isn't clarinet lessons. This is what I love. And so I'm taking pride in putting my hard hat on and working through this stuff. And then finding the ways to work through it. And then there's a million different creative solutions for how to work through them. And that's the physical part of it, which then we bring into the mix. But if the mind is not allowing the body to have that precision, needing freedom, then it's like driving with the parking brake on, and you're never going to achieve your potential. You've got to be able to find the release without fear. So, for whatever that's worth, there's a couple of thoughts. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, John. That was really incredible because maybe he's talking about being an amazing athlete or whatever, but being amazing, just amazing person, and looking at your life in a different way, and it's just how you think on a regular basis, and training your mind that way. It can make all the difference in your life, and how your life ends up, and how your journey is. So anyways, but thank you so much. I think that was really fantastic, and we need people like you to inspire us, definitely. So thank you guys. Do you have any questions?